Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerbal. Alright, so today I'm going to talk about the issue of immigration. My son is in the car, so hopefully we won't hear any crying. Hopefully, if anything, it'll be some gooing and gawing. He's just chilling in his car seat back there, going on a grocery run. So, what a great time to talk about some immigration. Yeah. This is another episode within our social issues series here. We talked about before the issue of abortion, euthanasia, kind of life and death issues, and now we are moving on to the issue of immigration. So I think there's three main points to make about this that will kind of give us principles to work with from both a natural philosophical perspective, like a purely philosophical perspective, and also from the perspective of the Catholic Church. And these three principles, I would say, are that human beings have a right to life, human beings have a right to dignity, like they have inherent human dignity, and then also human beings have a right to thrive. And the order of these, I think, is actually quite important. So the first one, human beings have a right to life. We've talked about this quite a bit in the last few episodes, so I don't really want to get too much in the weeds here. But just to basically reiterate that, yes, human beings have a right to life. And I guess I would distinguish these three things also in this way, that human beings have a right to life, which distinguishes them from non-living beings, right? Like rocks and sand and, the sun, stars, all those sorts of things. And then when we get to the second point of human beings have dignity, this would distinguish us between other beings that have life, right? So human beings have dignity, but animals do not have the same type of dignity, and neither do plants. Okay, so this is what would distinguish us from other animals and other plants. And then I would argue that human beings, or at least some human beings, have a right to thrive. Now you might be like, doesn't every human being have a right to thrive? And yes, in and of themselves, they do. But what I'm going to argue is that they have the ability to forfeit that right. It's not an inalienable right, but it's an alienable right. Meaning, like it can be divorced or separated from the person if that person forfeits it by their actions. So, okay, to go back, the first point, human beings have a right to life. Okay, pretty solid on that. Let's move on to the second one. The second point, human beings have dignity. Human beings have dignity, and that can never be taken away from them, ever. They can't forfeit it. Nothing can ever take that away. From their very conception, from the beginning of their life, a human being has an inalienable right to their dignity. That can never be taken away, and if someone tries to, that's a violation of human rights. And then we would go on to the third principle, that human beings have a right to thrive. And the reason I say that this can be forfeited, this right, is because it can be forfeited in the sense that someone can be imprisoned or even put to death if they pose a threat, like an active threat to other people's right to thrive, or to other people's human dignity, or to other people's right to life. So if an individual person threatens the rights or dignities of any other human being or group of human beings, they have the potential to forfeit their right to thriving. And that would be in the case of someone being imprisoned, or in the extreme situation, being put to death for said crimes. Okay, so how does this all relate to the social issue of immigration? Well, I would argue, if policies on immigration violate either the right to life, the right to human dignity, or in certain cases, the right to thrive, then it would be an unjust law regarding immigration. Now, I guess it'd be helpful to couch this in the terms of the current political climate in the United States. I guess I'll be generalizing here, but at one extreme, you have people saying that there should be very strict laws governing whether people can come in to the United States or not, whether people can immigrate here or not. And then on the other side, the other extreme, would be to let anybody in that would be desirous of coming to the United States. So those are two extremes. Now, I don't know anybody who takes either one of those extremes. I doubt there are many people, if any, who would take those extremes. But it's good when we're talking about issues like this to kind of create the boundaries here. What are the boundaries of the issue where, people aren't going to really cross? Nobody's going to cross those boundaries and say, I mean, maybe some people will, and say, not only should we not let people into our country from various places, but we should go out and actively kill people from other countries. Okay, that would be like one extreme. And then the other extreme, and sorry, I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous. And then the other extreme, and like nobody would ever say this, I don't think, either of these things. And then the other, like going past the boundary on the other side, would be saying like we should ship people here for free from other countries so that they can have the opportunity of a better life, right? So those would be like pushing the boundaries of this conversation. So yeah, it's always good to figure out where those boundaries are in a certain conversation, and don't try to push past them, because then the conversation falls apart. You kind of start getting into different topics, or you just get into sheer like lunacy, basically. So again, you have on the one extreme people saying that we should have very strict rules against persons coming into the United States, and it should be fairly difficult to do so. And you have other people saying that we should just let anybody in who come. We should have open border policies. So you have closed border policies, or really close to closed border policies, or open border policies, or really close to open border policies. And then I would say most people are somewhere in the middle there, somewhere in between those two extremes. Not on the complete fringes, but maybe 25% in on either side, if you can visualize what I'm saying. And then there's probably not a whole lot of people that are smack dab in the middle on this kind of issue. But I think that the Catholic position, and I would say you don't have to be Catholic to take this position. I don't think you have to be Catholic to agree with anything within Catholic morality or ethics. You can agree with everything the Catholic Church says on morality and ethics, but disagree with what they say on theology. You can believe everything the Catholic Church says on philosophy, but disagree with what they say on theology. It's not like just because you're an atheist, you have to subscribe to certain philosophies or ethical theories, right? So what am I saying here? I guess I've laid out principles to use regarding human beings, really in any situation, and then how do these relate to the social issue of immigration, at least as I'm couching it in the example of the United States, right? So it would be that border policies would need to respect the dignity for human life. Well, I guess I combined two of those there. They would need to respect the right to life that humans have. They would need to respect the dignity that humans have, and they would have to respect the right for human beings to thrive, unless those human beings have forfeited that right. So I think this is why the Catholic Church has often been not on the side of those saying we should have a closed border policy or somewhere close to that position. And this is also why the Catholic Church has not said we should have an open border policy, right? There's somewhere in the middle here. Because it takes these three sort of principles and it tries to use those to create some sort of guiding idea of what a legislation on a topic like this should be. And I think it would look like something like this. human beings have the right to thrive, correct? So they do have the right to especially seek refuge in other places. That's just respecting the first two, human dignity and the right to life, is letting refugees immigrate to a certain country, right? But what about those who aren't refugees? They want to come to America, let's say, in order to have that third right of a human being, which would be the right to thrive. So there would have to be laws in place about immigration to bar those people who have forfeited their right to thrive, so people that are dangerous, from entering said country, because then that hurts everybody. If you let dangerous people into a country that is quote-unquote thriving, that's another argument whether the United States is actually thriving, but I think it's clear, at least on a material level, in comparison to a lot of other countries, the United States is considered to be thriving, right? So you wouldn't let people in who would pose a threat to other persons thriving. You wouldn't let a murderer in. You wouldn't let a terrorist in. You wouldn't let even somebody that has quite insane ideological convictions that they're so convicted about that they would act out of, you wouldn't let somebody with, I would argue, you wouldn't let somebody in with like a jihadist position, an Islamic jihadist position where they believe that everyone should convert to Islam or die. You wouldn't let somebody like that into your country. Because you have to protect that right to thrive for everyone. So you wouldn't let people who would pose a threat to that, right? And I think that really gets at the key here on what a policy on immigration should look like. Is it should respect a person's right to life. People should never be killed for trying to come into another country indiscriminately unless they legitimately pose a threat to the life of someone protecting the border, right? All people's human dignity should be respected in that whole process of immigration. So we shouldn't be doing things like holding them in concentration camps or cages or, anything like that. We shouldn't be separating families from one another during that process. That should never be allowed, unless, of course, the person has forfeited their right to thrive. But yeah, the separating families one is a sticky issue. But then, we need to legislate against people that would threaten those immigrating and also those already living in a country from thriving. So I think those are the principles that need to be in place for an immigration policy. And I think that's pretty in the middle. I do. I think that's pretty in the middle there. It's not open borders. It's not closed borders. It's like, let's just be prudent about this. Let's be smart about this. Who do we let in? And we have to respect those three principles of human life, human dignity, and the right to thrive unless one has forfeited that right. All right? So, thank you. And I guess to be clear, the right to thrive, again, and I've said this, but I want to be clear, is a potential right to thrive. It doesn't mean that we have to somehow create a way for everyone to thrive, because that's impossible. That would be utopia. Utopia doesn't exist. So, anyway, I hope that helps. Those three principles: life, the right to life, the right to human dignity, and the right to thrive with those conditions. So, thank you. Real quick, please feel free to subscribe to any of my podcasts on any of the podcast players. Find me on YouTube. Please subscribe. Like me on Facebook, like the Catholicism Car channel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all there. Catholicism Car. And then I also have a Patreon account if you wish to support what I do at this podcast and this YouTube channel. And you can also support us on Anchor.fm. There's a support button there you click on. I also have links to all this on my website's support page at www.catholicisminthecar.com.